Welcome to Zoe Stories. Wife's hypnosis on husband went way too far. The first thing I remember about my life with Lisa was the way she always seemed to have a plan. She wasn't controlling in the obvious, overt sense. She didn't yell. She didn't demand. Instead, she had this quiet, persuasive precision that made it feel like her way was the natural path, and mine, well, my own thoughts seemed to bend around hers without me noticing. I often joked that she could convince me I liked broccoli, if she wanted. Back then, it was charming, cute even. I didn't know that charming could slowly evolve into something far more permanent than I ever imagined. My name is Ryan. I work as a mid-level graphic designer at a marketing agency, mostly from home these days. My life is ordinary, or at least it appears that way on the surface. I have my routines, my little quirks, and a small circle of friends who have no idea about my secret hobbies. Because, yes, I had hobbies. But unlike Lisa's controlling tendencies, my secret life was all mine. I had always been curious about the feminine world, clothes, makeup, the feeling of slipping into an outfit that was soft and delicate. There was a thrill in it, an excitement that both scared and fascinated me. I never told Lisa. I didn't need to. She had enough control over me that my own desires could stay tucked away like a private diary, untouched and undiscovered, until the night she first mentioned hypnosis. Lisa had come across an article online about the power of suggestion and how couples could use hypnosis to enhance trust, intimacy, and communication. I remember her excitement as she explained it, her eyes sparkling. "It's harmless," she said, "just a little experiment. We can try it together. I think you'll love it." I remember nodding, unsure why I was nervous. It wasn't the idea of hypnosis itself. It was the way Lisa presented it, as though refusing would be unthinkable. That night, our bedroom was calm and dimly lit. The scent of vanilla candles filled the air, the soft hum of music in the background. Lisa instructed me to sit in the chair, cross my legs, and follow her voice. Her voice was hypnotic, soft and soothing. I remember feeling my body relax, my mind floating somewhere between wakefulness and dream. It was exhilarating and frightening. The first session ended with a giggle and a kiss on my forehead. "We'll do more tomorrow," she said. I didn't protest. In fact, a strange part of me wanted more. Weeks passed. What started as a few experimental sessions slowly became part of our nightly routine. Each session was slightly longer, her suggestions slightly more daring. At first, it was innocent. Imagine yourself more relaxed, more attentive to me, more open to trying new things. But then, her suggestions began to shape more specific behaviors, sitting with crossed legs like a lady, brushing my hair differently, noticing how certain colors made me feel. I laughed nervously, thinking she was just teasing me. But deep down, a small, unignorable part of me was curious and compliant. I still had my life outside the hypnosis, work, friends, hobbies, but even there, subtle changes crept in. My voice softened when she suggested it. My posture became more delicate. I remember looking in the mirror one evening, seeing my reflection slightly altered, wondering if it was just the lighting or if I was truly changing. And it wasn't just physical. There was a part of me that began to enjoy the attention, the subtle thrill of living in two worlds, Ryan, the husband, and this new, softer, more delicate version Lisa was quietly cultivating. Lisa was brilliant at masking her intentions with care and affection. She never forced me, not overtly. But the hypnosis created a loop where her suggestions felt like my own choices. It was confusing, intoxicating, and terrifying all at once. By the time she suggested trying on feminine clothing during one session, my pulse raced. It felt taboo, exciting, wrong, and yet I found myself doing it willingly. I remember slipping into her silky blouse, the sensation foreign yet thrilling. The heels she placed by my feet felt heavy, elegant, and I hesitated. "Try them," she whispered. "Just for me." I did. And that was the first time I saw the full reflection of this transformation. Looking into the mirror, I didn't recognize myself entirely. There was a vulnerability there, a softness that I had never allowed to surface. But there was also a curious pride, a fascination at seeing this other version of myself. Lisa kissed my cheek, and the thrill of approval washed over me. It was the first time I realized that her hypnosis had gone beyond play. It was slowly reshaping not just my behavior, but my identity. Our home, once a place of familiar comfort, began to feel like a stage. Every room, every mirror, every soft light became part of her plan. I would practice walking in heels when she wasn't around, experimenting with makeup when the house was empty. Each step brought a mix of exhilaration and dread. What would happen if someone saw me like this? Could I ever go back to being the man I once was? And yet, with every session, with every suggestion, with every glance from Lisa that lingered just a little too long, the boundaries blurred. I became both willing participant and captivated subject, caught between my own desires and her subtle, persistent influence. The line between Ryan and the person I was becoming was fading, and I didn't know how to stop it, or if I even wanted to. By the time this story truly begins, I had already transformed in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. I wasn't just experimenting anymore. I was living in a reality where my identity was fluid, molded by love, curiosity, and the hypnotic power Lisa wielded so effortlessly. And I was about to discover just how far she was willing and able to take me. The first morning after my last hypnosis session, I woke with an unusual heaviness in my chest. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting warm lines across our bedroom floor. Lisa was still asleep beside me, her steady breathing rhythmic and calm. For a moment, I considered slipping out of bed quietly, but a strange curiosity kept me frozen, almost as if I were waiting for some signal from my own body, some acknowledgement that the change had begun. I shuffled to the bathroom, avoiding the mirror at first, though I could feel my pulse quicken at the thought of seeing myself reflected there. Once I finally stood before it, the reflection that greeted me was different. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible. My shoulders seemed narrower, my hands softer, my jawline slightly less defined. It was disorienting, and yet there was a strange sense of fascination, like peering into a version of myself I had never allowed to exist. I traced the outline of my face with my fingers, hesitating at the smoothness of my skin. How much of this was real, and how much was suggestion still lingering in my subconscious? Lisa stirred behind me, her voice low and teasing. "Morning, beautiful." The word caught in my throat. It wasn't playful, it was sincere. She leaned against the doorway, hair falling in a cascade around her shoulders, her eyes glinting with amusement. "Sleep well?" Yeah, I muttered, avoiding her gaze, though I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. Something in her tone made me shiver, not from cold, but from the realization that I was already slipping further into her influence. She smiled knowingly, moving closer. "You're thinking about last night, aren't you?" I swallowed, nodding slightly. "Maybe." Lisa's hand brushed mine, sending a jolt of awareness through me. "It's okay," she murmured. "This is all part of the fun. Don't fight it." And that was the problem. I didn't want to fight it. I felt a rush of excitement mingled with shame. Part of me reveled in the idea of being molded, of stepping deeper into a version of myself I had long kept hidden. Yet another part recoiled at the thought of surrendering control completely. After breakfast, she left for work, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the lingering echo of her words. I wandered through the house, brushing my fingers along surfaces, feeling oddly self-conscious. The reflection in the hallway mirror caught my attention again. I realized I had been subconsciously adjusting my posture, sitting straighter, crossing my legs delicately, smoothing my hands over my thighs. Every motion felt both foreign and thrilling, a performance I hadn't rehearsed. I remembered the heels she had placed by the bed last night. They called to me, not with command, but with curiosity. I bent down, sliding them onto my feet. The sensation was strange at first, my balance uncertain, muscles protesting. But as I walked, awkward steps at first, then slightly more confident, a heat of exhilaration surged through me. I could hear Lisa's voice in my mind. "You look amazing. Walk like this, feel it. Let it be part of you." By midday, I was experimenting with her makeup kit, the soft brushes and shimmering powders unfamiliar in my hands. I hesitated, remembering how many times I had promised myself I would never cross this line. Yet, with every stroke on my skin, every contour adjusted, I felt a thrill that was almost addictive. My features softened, my eyes seemed larger, more expressive. I caught my reflection again, and startled at the sight. Was this really me? Or was I becoming someone else entirely? The suspense of being caught, or discovered, loomed over me like a shadow. I imagined Lisa returning home early, catching me in the act. The thought made my pulse race, my cheeks warm with both fear and excitement. Every noise from the street outside, every creak in the floorboards felt amplified, as if the house itself was complicit in the game. I spent hours alone, practicing, adjusting, experimenting. Each moment of self-discovery was paired with a gnawing sense of anxiety. How far could I go before it was too much? How much of myself was I losing in the process? Yet, each hesitation was countered by the seductive thrill of transformation, the excitement of seeing, feeling, and becoming someone new. By evening, I had fully embraced my feminine guise: delicate blouse, fitted skirt, high heels, and soft makeup that accentuated every feature. Standing in front of the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. There was me, Ryan, but layered over that a new identity, delicate and vulnerable yet powerful in its own way. I realized with a jolt that I was no longer merely cross-dressing for curiosity. This was becoming part of me, something I craved and feared simultaneously. The first build-up day ended with a note of suspense, Lisa's car pulling into the driveway earlier than expected. I frozen mid-step, heart hammering in my chest. My hands trembled as I debated whether to hide, run, or greet her as I was. The thrill of secrecy, the pulse of fear, coursed through me like electricity. This was only the beginning. The line between experiment and reality was already blurring, and I couldn't tell which version of me would survive by the time she walked through that door. The sound of Lisa's keys jingling at the door sent a shiver down my spine. I had just finished adjusting the eyeliner, carefully tracing a perfect line along my upper lashes. My reflection in the mirror seemed almost unfamiliar now, a softer, more delicate face, eyes widened, lips slightly plump and glistening. Every detail whispered a secret I had never allowed myself to embrace. I froze, holding my breath as her footsteps approached the hallway. The adrenaline surged, making my legs tingle inside the heels. Part of me wanted to run, hide behind the bedroom door, return to the comfort of my former self. But another part, a braver, more daring side, longed to be seen like this, to let Lisa witness the transformation she had orchestrated. Ryan. Her voice was light, teasing, almost musical. Are you ready for me? I hesitated, then forced a small, shaky nod. My voice trembled when I replied. Why, yes. Lisa stepped inside, her eyes sweeping over me with a mixture of amusement and approval. You look incredible, she whispered, her gaze lingering on the subtle curves accentuated by my skirt, the delicate tilt of my neck, the softness in my hands. I felt both exposed and powerful under her gaze. As the initial wave of embarrassment ebbed, curiosity surged. Lisa moved closer, reaching out to adjust a stray lock of hair around my cheek. Her fingers brushed against my skin, sending an electric thrill that I struggled to contain. You're learning fast, she murmured, but we're just getting started. After she left for a brief errand, I was alone again with my reflection. I studied every detail, the way my chest seemed fuller, the subtle curve of my waist, the softness of my skin. My thoughts churned between awe and panic. Was I changing this quickly, or was it merely the effect of her hypnosis lingering in my mind? To test myself, I began experimenting with different movements. Walking in heels felt both unnatural and exhilarating. Each step required balance, attention, and grace. I traced my fingers along the skirt's fabric, feeling its softness and realizing just how foreign yet exciting this experience had become. I practiced a smile, tilting my head in ways I never had before, trying to mirror the femininity that Lisa had so subtly instilled in me. As the afternoon waned, I began exploring more daring transformations. Lipstick, blush, subtle eyeshadow. Each application intensified the otherworldly feeling of being someone else. I noticed my posture shifting naturally, shoulders back, chest forward, movements more fluid. Every detail Lisa had guided me to emulate seemed to manifest effortlessly. But along with fascination came fear. What if this change became permanent? What if my identity, my control, my sense of self, slipped too far? My pulse quickened at the thought of anyone discovering me like this. Not just Lisa, my friends, colleagues, even distant relatives. The secrecy was intoxicating, but the consequences of exposure loomed large. I paused, glancing at the clock. Lisa would be home soon. My heart raced, caught between anticipation and dread. I had to make a choice: hide in the bedroom, attempting to revert myself, or embrace the transformation fully and face her gaze with vulnerability. I chose the latter. Standing tall in the mirror, heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor, I allowed myself to embody the persona she had begun crafting. The act was both terrifying and liberating, like stepping onto a stage with no script. I realized, with a mix of excitement and apprehension, that I was becoming more than just a reflection of her design. I was learning to inhabit a version of myself I had never dared explore. Then, the unexpected happened. A knock at the door, sharp, insistent, echoed through the apartment. My pulse spiked. It wasn't Lisa. I froze, unsure of who could be visiting at this hour. Thoughts raced: a neighbor? A delivery? Someone curious about me? Every noise magnified in the tense silence that followed. I tiptoed to the door, heels clicking softly, and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. Heart still hammering, I opened it cautiously, only to find a small package on the floor. Confused, I picked it up, noting the label in Lisa's handwriting. For tonight. Use carefully. Inside, I discovered a set of delicate lingerie, stockings, and a small vial of a strange liquid. My breath caught. The anticipation, the thrill, the fear, they all collided in an overwhelming wave. Lisa was pushing me further, challenging the boundaries of my comfort, of my identity, and I realized with a mix of dread and exhilaration that I couldn't resist. By nightfall, I had attempted the new outfit. The lingerie was soft against my skin, the stockings a strange mixture of sensation and restriction. I practiced walking, adjusting, posing in the mirror. My reflection was no longer just a curiosity. It was becoming a new reality, one that I both longed to embrace and feared I might lose myself in. As the evening deepened, I heard the familiar sound of Lisa's car returning. The suspense became nearly unbearable. I glanced at the mirror one last time, heart racing. The transformation was nearly complete, yet the real test, the encounter with Lisa, was imminent. My mind swirled with anticipation, desire, and fear. Every nerve in my body was alive, acutely aware that the next few moments would redefine the boundaries between control and surrender. The sound of Lisa's footsteps in the hallway made my heart skip a beat. Each step echoed in my ears, magnified by the anticipation and fear swirling in my chest. I adjusted my posture instinctively, standing a little straighter, hips subtly tilted, chest forward. Every movement carefully measured to embody the persona I had been rehearsing all afternoon. When she entered the room, her eyes lit up with that mischievous spark I had come to both crave and dread. "Wow," she whispered, letting the word linger as her gaze swept over me. "You've taken to this so naturally, almost too naturally." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. Too naturally. Was it praise, or a subtle warning of how deep I was already slipping into her crafted identity? I tried to smile, nervously twirling a lock of hair around my finger. I'm trying," I murmured, my voice softer, more feminine than usual. Lisa circled me slowly, her fingers grazing the fabric of the lingerie and stockings. Each touch was electrifying, sending a jolt through my body that I couldn't ignore. "Do you feel different?" she asked, her tone light but probing. Inside. Not just how you look, but how you feel. I hesitated. The truth was complicated. Yes, I felt different, lighter, more aware of every movement, every sensation. There was a thrill in embodying this new persona, a kind of liberation I had never known. But there was also fear, a gnawing anxiety about losing control, about becoming something I might not recognize anymore. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. It's strange. Exciting, but strange. Lisa smiled, her eyes glinting with satisfaction. Good. That's exactly what I want you to feel. The thrill, the vulnerability, the tension between who you were and who you're becoming. She stepped closer, guiding me to a full-length mirror. Look at yourself, she instructed softly. Really look. I did, and the reflection was almost unrecognizable. The soft curves, the delicate hands, the subtle sway of my hips, it all seemed to belong to someone else. And yet, deep down, I knew it was me. Or at least, it was becoming me. My pulse raced as I traced the outline of my new form with my eyes, feeling a mixture of awe, fear, and undeniable arousal. Then Lisa produced a small, ornate box from her bag. My curiosity piqued. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see its contents without seeming too eager. She opened it to reveal a delicate pair of high heels, taller and more elegant than any I had ever worn. You're going to wear these, she said, her voice both gentle and commanding. They'll complete the transformation. My stomach nodded. Walking in heels was already challenging, and these were a new level of difficulty. But the thought of refusing, or disappointing her, was unbearable. I nodded, my hands trembling slightly as I took them from her. Slipping into the heels was an exercise in concentration. My balance wavered with each step, but gradually, I found a rhythm, a way to glide across the floor with a tentative grace. Lisa watched intently, occasionally offering subtle corrections, an adjustment of posture, a tilt of the head, a soft whisper in my ear. Hours passed in this delicate dance of instruction and practice. Lisa's guidance was relentless yet intimate, her presence both comforting and intimidating. With every correction, every encouragement, I felt myself slipping further into the persona she had created for me. My normal self, the confident, rational man I had always been, was fading, replaced by someone softer, more delicate, more her creation. At one point, I caught a glimpse of my reflection from a different angle. The combination of lingerie, stockings, heels, and carefully applied makeup transformed me completely. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and thrillingly powerful all at once. My heartbeat thundered in my chest as I turned slowly, experimenting with movement, with expression. Then came the moment of realization. I didn't just look different, I felt it. My voice, my posture, my gestures, they all carried a feminine rhythm I had never known. Lisa had unlocked something within me, something both exciting and terrifying. But just as I began to embrace this newfound identity, a sudden noise from the apartment door made me freeze. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, echoed through the hall. My pulse spiked. Someone was coming, and I wasn't ready. Lisa's gaze followed mine, sharp and alert. Relax, she whispered, her fingers brushing my cheek. It's part of the thrill. Can you handle it? I swallowed hard. Could I? Could I maintain this delicate facade under scrutiny, keep the secret intact while my body and mind teetered on the edge of transformation? The tension was almost unbearable, every nerve in my body alive with fear and excitement. I nodded, forcing myself to smile. I'll try, I whispered, my voice trembling. The footsteps grew closer, and I realized this was the ultimate test. Not just of my ability to walk, to move, to appear feminine, but of my capacity to inhabit this new identity fully, to surrender control yet remain aware, to embrace the transformation without losing myself entirely. Lisa's hand rested gently on my shoulder, grounding me. Good, she said softly. This is just the beginning. Remember, every choice you make now shapes who you'll be and how far you'll go. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Whatever came next, I was on the edge of a precipice, teetering between fear and exhilaration, between who I had been and who I was becoming. And there was no turning back. The sound of footsteps in the hallway faded for a moment, replaced by the pounding of my own heartbeat. I stood frozen in the living room, high heels clicking against the polished floor, every nerve alert. Lisa's hand rested lightly on my back, anchoring me, yet the tension in the air was palpable. "I think you're ready," she murmured, almost to herself. "Ready for what comes next." I swallowed, unsure if I wanted to hear more. The vulnerability I felt was intoxicating, yet terrifying. My reflection in the mirror showed someone unrecognizable yet undeniably me, delicate, graceful, feminine. I could feel the weight of each decision pressing down on me. Every tilt of my head, every sway of my hips, even the flutter of my lashes was a performance now. Lisa guided me to the sofa, where a small box lay waiting. Inside were accessories, bracelets, a delicate necklace, and a set of earrings. Each piece seemed to carry its own symbolism, each one completing the illusion. My fingers trembled as I fastened the necklace around my neck. The cool metal against my skin made me shiver, a strange mixture of thrill and anxiety coursing through me. "You're doing beautifully," Lisa whispered. Her gaze lingered, intense and assessing. "But now we push the boundaries. You need to understand the power and the danger of this persona." Before I could ask what she meant, she reached for a small, ornate hand mirror. "Look," she said softly. "Really look at her. At yourself. This isn't just about clothing or makeup. This is about inhabiting a new reality." I raised the mirror slowly, my breath catching. The reflection staring back was undeniably feminine. The lines of my jaw softened by contouring, lips glistening with gloss, eyes wide and expressive. Even in the subtle sway of my body, I could see the transformation taking root. The person I had been seemed distant, replaced by someone I was only beginning to recognize. Lisa's voice broke through my reverie. "Imagine facing the world like this. Imagine walking down the street, knowing anyone could see the person you're becoming. Can you feel it? The thrill? The fear?" I nodded, though my throat was tight. I could feel both. The exhilaration of being fully seen in this new form and the terror of exposure. Each step I had taken in heels, each flick of mascara, each careful gesture, it all led to this moment. Suddenly, a soft chime from my phone made me jump. I fumbled, almost dropping the device, but Lisa's steady hand guided me. "Ignore it for now. This is your moment." The interruption, brief as it was, reminded me that the outside world existed, waiting to intrude on this fragile reality. The thought made my chest tighten. Could I maintain this persona if anyone else walked through the door? Could I control the duality of my existence without shattering under scrutiny? Lisa moved closer, her presence both reassuring and intimidating. She placed a hand under my chin, tilting my head up. "You see that? That's the power of transformation. It's not just how you look, it's how you feel, how you move, how you inhabit the space around you. You can command attention, but it also makes you vulnerable." I swallowed hard, feeling the truth of her words. Each step in heels was a balance of confidence and instability, each glance in the mirror a confrontation with a self I was only beginning to accept. I realized that this journey wasn't just about outward appearance. It was about surrendering control, embracing vulnerability, and testing the limits of who I could be. Lisa stepped back, letting me catch my breath. "Now we practice a scenario," she said. "Imagine someone unexpected is coming into the room. You have to maintain composure, keep the persona intact, or risk everything unraveling." My pulse quickened. The scenario felt too real, too immediate. Every fiber of my being screamed with anticipation and fear. Lisa's instructions were clear, but executing them would require more than practice. It demanded presence, awareness, and courage. I began moving through the room, each step deliberate, each gesture carefully measured. I spoke softly to myself, practicing phrases, tones, and inflections that felt natural yet feminine. The heels added a constant challenge, forcing me to maintain balance while projecting grace. I could feel sweat prickling my forehead, hands trembling slightly, but I pushed forward. A sudden knock at the door made me freeze mid-step. My heart raced. Lisa's eyes flicked toward the sound, sharp and assessing. "Remember," she whispered, "this is the test. Can you keep her alive under pressure?" I forced a calm expression, adjusting my posture, smoothing my dress, and lifting my chin. The knocking continued, deliberate and insistent. Each sound amplified my anxiety, yet also solidified my focus. This was no longer practice. It was a rehearsal for survival in this dual life. Lisa's hand rested briefly on my shoulder, a silent reassurance. "You're ready," she murmured. "Now prove it." I moved toward the door, each step measured and precise, heels clicking with an authority I was only beginning to claim. The knocking persisted, growing louder, more urgent. I paused, taking a deep breath, and opened the door just slightly. The hallway outside was empty. I exhaled, relief and tension colliding in a single wave. But the exercise wasn't over. The vulnerability remained, a constant reminder that my new reality was fragile, precarious, and exhilarating. Lisa's voice cut through the silence. "This is the thrill, the fear, the excitement. You're living it now. Every choice you make, every step you take, shapes her and shapes you." I looked at my reflection once more, seeing the delicate lines, the feminine grace, and the persona I was crafting. I realized that the real challenge wasn't the clothes, the makeup, or the heels. It was maintaining the balance between who I had been and who I was becoming. The house was silent now, yet the tension clung to me like a second skin. Lisa's earlier drill with the knocking had left my nerves frayed, and every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the window felt magnified. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye again. This time, I saw more than makeup and dresses. I saw a version of myself that was both thrilling and terrifying. Lisa approached, holding a pair of lace gloves. "This is the final touch," she said softly. "They're delicate, elegant, a symbol of complete transformation. But remember, elegance is not just how you look, it's how you carry yourself under pressure." I slipped my hands into the gloves, feeling the smooth fabric hug my skin. It was intimate, almost like a promise I was making to this new persona. Each movement of my fingers felt deliberate, graceful, a reminder that even the smallest details mattered. My heart beat faster, knowing that what came next would be the true test of everything I had learned. "Now," Lisa said, her tone firm yet gentle, "you're going to meet someone at the door. Someone who isn't supposed to be here. You must maintain composure, charm, and control. Can you do that?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. My pulse raced as I made my way to the entrance. The heels clicked against the floor with a confidence I was only beginning to feel. Each step felt like a declaration. This was no longer practice. This was reality. I paused before opening the door, taking a deep breath. The hallway beyond was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the walls. Then a sudden noise, a key turning in the lock, made my stomach drop. I wasn't ready, yet there was no turning back. The door swung open, and a figure stood there. A neighbor? A delivery person? My mind raced, but I forced a serene smile. I tilted my head slightly, letting my hair cascade over my shoulders in a deliberate gesture of femininity. "Hello," I said, my voice soft yet confident. The words felt foreign coming from my lips, but I held the cadence, the tone, the controlled warmth Lisa had taught me. The figure blinked, seemingly assessing me, and I felt a shiver of vulnerability. Every second stretched, each heartbeat echoing in my chest. I could feel the weight of my new identity pressing down, challenging my courage. Would they see through the illusion? Would my secret unravel here, in this moment? Lisa's voice was a whisper at my side, grounding me. "Breathe. You are her. Remember, elegance is strength." I straightened, taking a deliberate step forward, the heels steady beneath me. My hands, clad in lace gloves, moved with fluidity, a subtle sweep that conveyed poise. The figure at the door nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement of the transformation, yet the tension remained palpable. For a moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. The persona I had cultivated, the femininity I had embraced, the vulnerability and excitement, it all converged in this single encounter. I realized then that the true challenge wasn't just the external pressure. It was mastering the internal duality, the delicate balance between who I had been and who I was becoming. Then, just as quickly, the figure moved on, a polite smile exchanged, the door closing behind them. Relief and exhilaration collided within me. I sank into the nearest chair, breathing heavily, trying to steady my racing heart. Every muscle in my body felt alive, charged with adrenaline and emotion. Lisa stepped closer, her eyes soft but piercing. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "This is the edge you've been building toward. The thrill, the fear, the exhilaration, they're all part of her now." I nodded, still catching my breath. The transformation wasn't just physical anymore. It was emotional, psychological. I had inhabited this persona under pressure, maintained composure, and embraced the vulnerability that came with it. I was beginning to understand the power and the danger of living this dual life. As I glanced at the mirror, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. The woman staring back was elegant, poised, undeniably real. Yet beneath the surface, I felt the lingering tension, the knowledge that this was just a rehearsal for even greater challenges ahead. The persona was alive, yes, but the world outside could still threaten to expose it at any moment. Lisa's hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "Remember this feeling," she said. "The thrill of fear, the beauty of vulnerability. It's what makes her real. And it's what will carry you through the next steps." I nodded, absorbing every word. The experience had left me shaken, exhilarated, and more aware of the stakes than ever before. Each lesson, each step, each test had prepared me, but I knew the ultimate challenge was still to come. I straightened once more, adjusting the dress, the gloves, the subtle curl of my hair. This was more than practice. It was the beginning of a journey I couldn't turn back from, a world where elegance and danger intertwined, and where every choice would define who I truly was beneath the surface. The house was silent again, but the sensation of being truly seen, truly transformed, lingered. I felt both fear and excitement coiling within me, a reminder that living this life would always be a delicate balance between thrill and risk, vulnerability and control. The morning light filtered through the curtains, but it brought no comfort. Instead, it illuminated the reality I had been avoiding. Lisa's training, the careful lessons in poise and elegance, were about to collide with the unpredictability of real life. My reflection in the mirror looked composed, flawless, but the anxiety under the surface throbbed like a second heartbeat. Lisa had already left for the day, leaving me alone in the house. It was supposed to be a quiet day of practice, but instinctive tension clung to me. Every sound, the creak of the stairs, the hum of the refrigerator, even the distant bark of a neighbor's dog, felt like it could betray me. I was no longer just a husband or a man. I was living as her, and that meant that any slip could unravel everything. I took a deep breath, adjusting the fitted dress I had carefully chosen, feeling the silky fabric brush my skin. The heels clicked softly on the floor as I paced, the lace gloves snug against my fingers. Every movement was deliberate, every step measured, as if I were rehearsing for an audience that wasn't there yet. Then the first knock came. Sharp, urgent, insistent. My stomach dropped. I wasn't expecting anyone, and yet the sound echoed through the house like a warning. My heart raced, and my hands trembled slightly despite the gloves. Whoever it was, they didn't know the truth, or did they? The uncertainty was unbearable. I moved to the door, trying to calm my racing mind. Each step in my heels reminded me how precarious my balance was, both physically and emotionally. I peeked through the peephole and froze. There, standing with a puzzled expression, was Emma, my wife. A cold wave of panic swept through me. She wasn't supposed to be home for another few hours. This wasn't part of the plan. I was exposed before the climax of my training even began. I opened the door with a carefully practiced smile, forcing my voice to sound natural, light, feminine. "Hi, Emma. You're early." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly, scanning me up and down. "Yeah, I thought I'd surprise you," she said, stepping inside. "You look different." Her voice carried an edge of curiosity, of suspicion. I forced a laugh, twirling a lock of hair around my finger. "Oh, this? Just trying something new. Thought I'd experiment a little." My chest tightened with each word. Every syllable was a tightrope walk. If I faltered, the illusion could shatter instantly. Emma's gaze lingered, sharp and evaluating. She stepped closer, her eyes studying my gloves, the curves of the dress, the subtle makeup I had applied. "You've been practicing, haven't you?" My throat went dry. "Just a little," I admitted, forcing a playful smile. "It's fun, don't you think?" Her lips curved slightly, an expression that was neither approving nor disapproving, just curious. My mind raced. Should I continue the act? Should I try to explain away my transformation, or should I stay silent and hope my composure carries me through? Emma's sudden move toward the living room distracted me from my spiraling thoughts. She picked up a magazine from the coffee table and started flipping through it. "I didn't realize you were into dressing up like this," she said casually, though her tone hinted at deeper intrigue. I laughed nervously, smoothing the dress down. "It's just a hobby," I said, trying to downplay the intensity of my feelings. "Nothing serious." But her next words stopped me cold. "I wonder what would happen if you fully embraced it." My heart lurched. Fully embraced? What did she mean by that? My mind flashed to Lisa's instructions, to the possibilities I had barely dared to imagine. Could this be a test? A challenge? Or something far more dangerous? Emma walked closer, circling me slowly, her eyes like a predator's, observing every detail of my posture, my expression, my vulnerability. "You're beautiful," she said softly, almost reverently. "I've never seen you like this before." The compliment was electric, and yet terrifying. It validated the persona I had been building, the transformation I had been perfecting. But it also reminded me that my secret was no longer mine alone. Emma's attention made the stakes immeasurably higher. A sudden noise, a car door slamming outside, made both of us jump. Emma glanced toward the window, frowning. "Did you hear that?" I shook my head, trying to remain calm. The adrenaline surged through me, making every movement feel simultaneously graceful and precarious. I knew the next few moments could define everything, whether I maintained control or lost it all. Emma sat down on the couch, patting the spot next to her. "Sit with me," she said, a subtle command underlying her words. My mind raced. Sitting down could be harmless, or it could make me vulnerable. I swallowed hard and obeyed, stepping carefully in my heels, my heart pounding. As I sat, our eyes met in the reflection of the window, and I realized something crucial. This wasn't just about cross-dressing anymore. It was about trust, exposure, and the delicate balance of power. My transformation had led me to this moment, where every choice carried consequences, where every glance, every word could tip the scales. And then she leaned in closer, whispering, "I think we should explore this fully. Right now." The words hit me like a thunderbolt. The line between training and reality, between play and irrevocable change, had vanished. My heart raced, my mind whirled, and I understood. This was the true climax. The test wasn't just about poise or makeup or heels. It was about whether I could embrace this identity fully, under pressure, in the presence of someone who could see through every layer of my carefully constructed persona. Emma's words lingered in the air like a charged spark, igniting every nerve in my body. I sat frozen for a moment, heels pressing into the carpet, feeling the delicate fabric of my dress shift as I tried to steady my racing heart. Could I actually go through with what she was suggesting? The thrill of transformation had always been mine in secret, but now it was no longer a private indulgence. it was an invitation, or perhaps a challenge. Her eyes didn't leave mine. There was no judgment there, only curiosity and something deeper, a fascination that made my stomach twist with both fear and excitement. "Do you want to try it?" she asked, her voice a low, hypnotic murmur. The subtle sway of her hair, the soft click of her heels as she shifted closer, it was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. I swallowed, my mind spinning. I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. My hands fidgeted with the lace at my wrists, the sensation grounding me, yet highlighting my vulnerability. Every instinct screamed caution, yet a part of me, the part that had longed for this validation, urged me to surrender. Emma tilted her head, a knowing smile forming. "You've always been curious, haven't you?" she pressed, and I felt the weight of her gaze like a physical touch, compelling me to reveal more than I wanted. The truth spilled out before I could stop it. I've always liked it. Dressing up, feeling feminine." Her smile widened, but there was a hint of mischief, of control, that made my pulse quicken. "Good," she said softly, placing a hand on my knee. "Then let's not hold back. Let's see what you can really become." My heart pounded as her fingers brushed against the fabric of my dress, a signal that blurred the line between encouragement and command. I felt exposed, naked beneath her scrutiny, yet the thrill was undeniable. My reflection in the nearby mirror caught my attention. The person staring back was both familiar and utterly transformed. The lines of my jaw softened with makeup, the heels elevated not just my posture but my confidence, and the dress clung in all the right places, marking me as someone new. Emma stood, circling me slowly, inspecting every detail with an intensity that made me shiver. "Let's start with your posture," she instructed. "Sit up straighter, chest out, shoulders back. Every movement counts. Remember, grace isn't just about how you look, it's how you command attention without effort." I followed her instructions, feeling the strange combination of discomfort and exhilaration as I adjusted myself in the dress. Each movement reminded me of my dual life, the man I had been and the persona I was now embodying. The tension in my body was mirrored by the tension in my mind. Every flicker of Emma's eyes was a test, every subtle smile a challenge. Then came the first real obstacle. A sudden knock at the front door jolted us both. My stomach dropped. The sound of reality intruding on our delicate game was like ice water poured over my nerves. Emma's expression shifted, a mixture of annoyance and calculation. "Ignore it," she murmured, but her tone carried a command I couldn't refuse. I glanced toward the door, torn between curiosity and fear. Should I check? Pretend nothing happened? My heels made soft clicks as I paced toward it, every step a reminder of the precarious balance I was maintaining. Through the peephole, I saw a delivery man holding a large package. Relief washed over me. Nothing threatening, yet still, the interruption added tension. Emma's hand rested lightly on my back, guiding me back toward the center of the room. "Remember," she said, "every distraction is an opportunity to test your control. Don't let anything break your composure." I nodded, swallowing hard, feeling the fabric of the dress tighten slightly as I shifted. Each instruction from Emma was like a key turning in a lock, unlocking confidence I hadn't known I possessed while simultaneously reminding me of how exposed I truly was. "Now," Emma continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that sent shivers down my spine, "let's try something new." She stepped behind me, guiding my hands to rest gracefully on my lap. "Move slowly. Feel the rhythm. Every gesture, every glance, every breath, it's part of the illusion. You are not just dressing up. You are becoming someone irresistible, someone commanding attention without even trying." I obeyed, moving with careful precision, feeling the thrill of performance mixed with the terror of being scrutinized. My reflection in the mirror became a dance of duality. The man I had been receding, replaced by a figure both delicate and commanding, fragile and confident. The thrill of transformation surged through me, yet a gnawing anxiety lingered. One wrong move, one misstep in these heels, one falter in my posture, and everything could unravel. Emma's gaze locked onto mine, her presence both comforting and terrifying. "Good," she whispered, a hand lightly brushing my cheek. "You're learning fast. But there's more. You have to feel it, not just look it. Let it change you from the inside." Her words were a spell, and I felt it working. My body relaxed into the persona, yet my mind raced with the possibilities and dangers of this exposure. The knock at the door, the sudden awareness of every sound, every movement, it was a heightened reality that made every moment electric. Then the unexpected happened. A sudden creak from upstairs made us both freeze. Emma's eyes narrowed, scanning the ceiling, and I felt my chest tighten. Someone else was home. Or was it just the house settling? My mind whirled. If anyone came down, if they saw me like this, it would all be exposed. Emma's hand gripped mine lightly. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Whatever happens, you are in control." And in that moment, I realized the true nature of the challenge. It wasn't just about the transformation, or the heels, or the dress. It was about control, about trust, about navigating a world where every choice carried consequences, and every glance could reveal the truth. The stakes had escalated beyond anything I had imagined, and the next few moments would decide whether I could truly live this dual life, or if the secret would consume me entirely. The creak upstairs hadn't been the house settling. It was footsteps. My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat echoing in my ears as I froze in place. Emma's hand tightened around mine, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone in this transformation. Yet the tension was unbearable. Whoever it was, they were coming closer, and I was still in heels, still in the delicate dress, and still entirely exposed. "Stay calm," Emma whispered again, her voice a soft anchor in the storm of panic rising inside me. "Remember everything I taught you: grace, poise, composure. You are still in control." I tried to breathe evenly, focusing on the sensation of the dress against my skin, the subtle click of the heels on the hardwood floor, and the reflection of myself in the mirror. The reflection was no longer just a figure in clothing. It was me, transformed, vulnerable, and yet undeniably powerful in this delicate disguise. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. My stomach churned as I heard the faint rattle of the doorknob. The world slowed, every sound magnified. My pulse, the rustle of the fabric, the subtle shift of Emma's weight beside me. Whoever was there had no idea what they were about to witness, and I had mere seconds to prepare. Emma tilted her head, her eyes locking onto mine. "When they come in, act natural. Own it. This is you, and no one can take that away, at least not if you believe it." I nodded, forcing a calm I didn't feel. The door creaked open, revealing my brother, Jake. Relief surged through me, quickly followed by dread. He had no idea. How could I explain this? What excuse could I possibly offer? "Hey, I thought I heard something," Jake said, his gaze flicking over me. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second, and I felt my heart stop. But before he could speak further, Emma stepped forward, smiling. "Just me and Ryan experimenting," she said smoothly, her voice carrying confidence and authority. "Isn't it fun, Jake? Don't you think he looks amazing?" Jake blinked, clearly processing the scene. His eyes darted between Emma and me, hesitation evident in every movement. I held my posture, letting the heels elevate not just my body, but my presence. I felt exposed and terrified, yet a strange surge of confidence swept over me. Emma's assertion gave me a shield. In this moment, I was part of her world, and my fears had to wait. "Well, yeah," Jake muttered, his tone uncertain but non-judgmental. "He looks different. Cool, I guess?" Emma laughed lightly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "See? You've got this. Just keep going." As Jake retreated, Emma turned to me with a grin. "That was close, but you handled it beautifully. You didn't flinch, didn't break character. That's progress." I exhaled, the tension leaving my body in a rush, only to be replaced by a deeper realization. This was no longer just play. Every step, every gesture, every interaction now carried consequences. The thrill of transformation was intoxicating, but the stakes were real. I wasn't just experimenting anymore. I was living it, and anyone could see right through the facade if I faltered. Emma guided me to the mirror again, her fingers brushing lightly against my cheek. "Look at yourself," she said. "Really look. This isn't about hiding who you are, it's about embracing it, controlling it, owning it. You're not just Ryan anymore. You're someone irresistible, someone confident, someone who commands attention." I studied my reflection, and for the first time, I saw more than just the man in a dress. I saw a version of myself I had never dared to reveal. Delicate features enhanced by makeup, a posture elevated by heels, and a presence that demanded notice. The vulnerability I felt was intertwined with power, and it was intoxicating. Then, just as I began to feel a semblance of control, my phone buzzed loudly on the counter. The sudden noise made me jump, the high-pitched ringtone slicing through the fragile calm. Emma's eyes narrowed, a mixture of amusement and warning. "Ignore it," she whispered, but my hands shook as I reached for the phone. It was a text from my boss, asking if I could come in for an urgent meeting. Panic surged again. How could I leave like this? How could I explain being dressed like a woman, heels clicking, makeup on, posture perfected? My dual life was teetering on the edge, and one wrong step could shatter it entirely. Emma's hand rested on mine, grounding me. "You have a choice," she said softly. "You can step into the world like this, or retreat. Either way, you've learned something important tonight. Control isn't about hiding. It's about confidence, about presence. The world may not accept this yet, but you can control how you move within it." I nodded, swallowing hard. The thrill of danger, of exposure, surged within me. I could either step out into the world as this transformed version of myself, risking judgment, or retreat to safety, keeping my secret intact. My heart raced as I realized that either decision would mark a turning point. Emma stepped closer, her eyes locking with mine. "Whatever you choose, remember this. You are more than what you were yesterday. And tonight, you've lived a beautiful lie that feels entirely real. Now, it's up to you whether you continue the illusion or step into reality." The words sank deep, and I felt the weight of my choice pressing on me. The heels, the dress, the makeup, they weren't just fabric and color. They were symbols of transformation, of vulnerability and power entwined. And as I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The tension hung thick in the air, a mix of exhilaration and fear, anticipation and dread. Outside the room, the world continued, unaware of the transformation that had taken place within these walls. And inside, I was caught between the person I had been and the person I could become, teetering on the edge of a new reality I had never imagined. The phone buzzed again, insistent and loud, jolting me from the fragile calm I had been clinging to. Emma's eyes narrowed, her expression a mix of warning and excitement. "Ignore it. Focus on me," she murmured. But curiosity and panic warred within me. Every muscle tensed, my fingers hovering over the screen. Finally, I gave in, swiping to read the message. It was from my boss. "Can you come in immediately? Urgent matter. Call me when you get this." My chest tightened. The thought of stepping outside like this, heels clicking, dress swaying, makeup perfect, filled me with a combination of dread and thrill. My secret self was about to collide with my professional life. Emma leaned closer, her hand brushing my arm. "This is it. The real test. Will you shrink away or step forward as the person you've become tonight?" Her voice was hypnotic, commanding. I could feel her energy coursing through me, grounding me, yet simultaneously daring me to risk it all. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I'll do it," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. I had crossed a line. There was no turning back. The illusion of safety had vanished, replaced by the exhilarating danger of exposure. As I prepared to leave, I glanced at myself in the mirror. The reflection staring back was no longer the nervous, unsure man from earlier. It was someone entirely transformed, a blend of vulnerability and strength, femininity and poise. The dress clung to my form perfectly. The heels elevated me both physically and psychologically, and the makeup accentuated features I hadn't dared to embrace before. I was beautiful, striking, and utterly exposed. Emma handed me a small clutch with essentials and whispered, "Remember everything. Posture, grace, calm. You own this. Even if the world doesn't accept it, you do." I nodded, swallowing hard as adrenaline surged. Stepping out into the hallway, every sound seemed amplified. The creak of the stairs, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant voices of neighbors. Each step in my heels was a test of balance and composure. I felt the eyes of the world on me, imagined judgments hovering in the shadows, and yet, beneath the fear, a thrill ignited that I had never experienced. Halfway to the door, the unexpected happened. The neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes widening at the sight of me. My heart nearly leapt into my throat. "Oh my, Ryan," she gasped, her hand clutching the railing. "Is that really you?" I froze. The world seemed to stop. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in my chest. Emma's hand on my shoulder steadied me, and she smiled reassuringly. "Yes, it's him, but he's embracing a new side tonight." Her tone was smooth, confident, leaving no room for judgment. Mrs. Callahan blinked, processing the scene. "Oh, I see. Well, you look lovely," she stammered, stepping aside with visible discomfort but no overt judgment. The relief that washed over me was palpable, but the tension didn't dissipate entirely. If even one person saw me like this, what would happen when others noticed? I reached the front door, my hand trembling slightly as I gripped the handle. Emma whispered in my ear, "One step at a time. Confidence. You're ready." With a deep breath, I opened the door and stepped outside, the cool evening air brushing against my skin. The world was waiting, indifferent yet threatening, full of possibilities and danger. The walk to the car felt surreal. Each step in heels was an affirmation of control, yet a reminder of vulnerability. I imagined every passerby's gaze, wondering if anyone could see past the exterior to the man I had been moments ago, or if they would only see the transformation, the lie, the truth intertwined. Finally, I reached the car. Emma slid in beside me, her presence a shield. "Remember, the world can't dictate your identity unless you let it," she whispered. I nodded, gripping the steering wheel, feeling the weight of anticipation pressing down. The drive to the office was tense. Each red light, each passing car, felt like a spotlight exposing my secret. I could feel every reaction, every glance magnified in my mind. When I finally parked and approached the building, I noticed the security guard staring at me, eyebrows raised. My pulse surged. Could I hold it together? Could I maintain this dual existence, balancing fear and exhilaration, desire and secrecy? Inside the lobby, coworkers paused, whispering. Some faces registered confusion, others curiosity, and a few subtle smirks. I could feel their judgments like invisible hands pressing against my chest. But Emma's words echoed in my mind. Confidence. Grace. Own it. I walked to the elevator, each step deliberate. I felt the stairs, the tension, the thrill of exposure, and realized something profound. I wasn't just hiding behind a disguise anymore. I was stepping into a persona I had cultivated, a blend of fear and power, vulnerability and allure. This wasn't just a test. It was my transformation taking root in the world outside my home. And just as I reached the office floor, the elevator dinged, and the doors opened to reveal my boss, standing in the hallway, staring directly at me. His mouth opened, eyes wide, and my pulse skyrocketed. This was it, the ultimate test of my control, my composure, and the boundaries between who I had been and who I was becoming. Emma's grip on my arm tightened slightly, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Show them who you are," she whispered. And in that instant, I realized that my life had irreversibly changed. The thrill, the fear, the transformation, they were all real, and there was no turning back. The moment I stepped into the hallway, my heart hammered so loudly it felt like everyone could hear it. My boss's eyes were locked on me, a mixture of shock, confusion, and curiosity etched into his face. I could feel the weight of the office around me. Every coworker's glance, every whisper of uncertainty brushing past my senses. The adrenaline surged, and for a split second, I questioned whether I could hold myself together. Emma's hand rested lightly on my back, a quiet anchor amid the storm of attention.
Breathe.
Confidence, she murmured. Her calm presence steadied me, and I drew in a deep breath, letting the energy of my transformation fill me. My heels clicked confidently against the polished floor, my dress swaying with a subtle elegance that demanded notice. This was no longer about hiding. This was about claiming the person I had become. My boss finally spoke, his voice tight and cautious. "Ryan, is that really you?" I nodded slowly, my eyes meeting his with a mixture of defiance and poise.
Yes.
"It's me, and I'm presenting myself as I feel most confident." There was a pause, a tense silence that stretched long enough for the office to collectively hold its breath. One coworker dared to whisper, "He looks different." Another muttered under their breath, uncertain whether to be polite or shocked. The room felt electric, charged with curiosity, disbelief, and an unspoken tension. Every fiber of my being buzzed with fear and exhilaration, the thrill of exposure colliding with the raw vulnerability of being truly seen. Emma leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "Now watch. You can control their perception if you own every inch of yourself." I nodded, taking a step forward, straightening my posture, letting my transformation radiate outward. The power of confidence washed over me like a wave, softening the anxiety while amplifying my presence. Then the unexpected happened. A colleague, someone I had never thought would notice, smiled, genuine and warm. "Ryan, you look amazing," she said, her voice steady. Others began murmuring similar affirmations, tentative at first, then more openly. Shock gave way to curiosity, and curiosity to acceptance. The tension remained, yes, but it was no longer suffocating. It was exhilarating. My boss, still adjusting to the new reality, cleared his throat. I need a moment to process this." He stepped aside, giving me a tentative nod. It was not the approval I had hoped for, but it was acknowledgement. Enough to make me feel that, despite the initial shock, my world was not collapsing. The day continued in a surreal blur. I moved through the office, every glance and whisper a test of my composure. Each step, each word, each gesture demanded precision. And yet, with every interaction, I felt a strange liberation, the thrill of fear intertwined with the empowerment of authenticity. Emma followed discreetly, guiding subtly with glances and small gestures, ensuring I remained anchored. Later, in a private office, Emma handed me a small mirror. "Look at yourself," she said softly. I studied my reflection, the confident figure, the poised stance, the meticulously applied makeup, the subtle sway of my dress, and the elegance of my heels. This was no longer a secret identity or a temporary thrill. This was real. This was me. But just as the relief began to wash over me, the phone on the boss's desk rang. A sharp, urgent ring. He answered, his brow furrowed. "Yes, what?"
When?
I understood. His expression shifted from tension to something more urgent. I caught a glimpse of the message flashing across the screen, a crisis at work that required immediate action, and me. Emma's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Your test isn't over. This is the final challenge. How you respond will define everything." I nodded, the adrenaline surging again. I had transformed physically, emotionally, mentally, but now I would be tested in the ultimate arena, high-stakes decision-making while fully embracing my new identity. I followed my boss to the emergency meeting, heels clicking, dress flowing, every movement a deliberate display of confidence. Colleagues watched in awe, whispering, uncertain whether they were witnessing courage, audacity, or something else entirely. The room was tense, the stakes high. I could feel every eye on me, the world daring me to falter. Then came the critical moment. A decision had to be made fast. Every instinct screamed caution, but every fiber of my transformed self demanded boldness. I spoke up, clearly, confidently, offering solutions that were sharp, strategic, and unflinchingly effective. Murmurs of approval spread, tension giving way to admiration. By the end of the meeting, the impossible had happened. I had not only survived exposure, but thrived under it. My colleagues, my boss, everyone in the room saw me, not just as Ryan, but as the confident, transformed person I had become. The mixture of fear, excitement, and empowerment had culminated in something extraordinary. Returning to the car, Emma grinned. You did it. You faced the world fully transformed, and you didn't just survive, you conquered it. I exhaled, a mixture of relief, exhilaration, and disbelief coursing through me. As we drove home, the city lights reflecting off the windshield, I realized that the night had changed me forever. The hypnosis, the transformation, the exposure, they were no longer temporary thrills. They were threads woven into the fabric of my life, binding fear and empowerment, secrecy and authenticity into a single, beautiful identity. The office was finally quiet. The adrenaline of the day had ebbed, leaving a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration in its wake. I sank into my chair, still in my dress and heels, feeling the surreal reality of what had just happened. Every heartbeat reminded me that I had faced my colleagues fully transformed, and I had survived. More than that, I had thrived. Emma's hand rested lightly on mine, grounding me. You did amazing, she whispered. Her eyes held a mix of pride and mischief, as if she knew something I didn't yet understand. I smiled weakly, still trying to process the whirlwind of emotions. Confidence, fear, excitement, vulnerability, all tangled together into one overwhelming knot. Just as I thought the worst was behind me, a sharp knock echoed through the office. My heart jumped, and I felt the old fear return instantly. Who? I called out, my voice shaking slightly. Emma tensed beside me, her hand squeezing mine. The door creaked open, and a figure I hadn't expected stepped in. My boss, looking unusually serious, held a small envelope in his hand. Ryan, we need to talk, he said, his voice low but urgent. He glanced at Emma, giving a subtle nod, then focused back on me. My stomach twisted. I stood, trying to appear calm and composed, but the tension coiled tight in my chest. Is something wrong? I asked cautiously. He handed me the envelope. This just arrived. It's concerning. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter, official, typed, and alarming. My eyes scanned the words, each sentence hitting me like a punch. Someone had apparently discovered evidence of my transformation online, photos, posts, even a partial video of me during one of my earlier sessions with Emma. It was enough to create scandal, enough to threaten not just my reputation but my career. I froze, unable to breathe. Emma's grip on my hand tightened. It's okay, she whispered, but her voice carried a tension I could feel. We'll figure this out. The office phone rang suddenly, shrill and insistent. My boss answered, his face growing paler with every word. He hung up, eyes wide. They're on their way. They want answers fast. A cold dread settled over me. The thrill, the empowerment, the confidence I had fought to maintain, they all collided with a sudden realization that my secret might no longer be mine alone. The thought of being exposed, of losing control, sent shivers down my spine. Emma leaned close, whispering, "We have to move. Now." She grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the elevator. Every step in my heels felt heavy, each click against the floor echoing the fear in my chest. I glanced back at my office, at the mirror where my reflection had once seemed a source of pride. Now, it was a reminder of vulnerability, of everything that could be taken from me in a moment. The elevator doors closed, and the city lights outside blurred past, a dizzying swirl of color and motion. I couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted, of every eye potentially turning against me. Emma's presence was my anchor, yet even her steady hand couldn't erase the gnawing anxiety. As we reached the street, A sleek black car waited. I didn't recognize it, and the driver didn't move. A chill ran down my spine as Emma whispered, "We're not just dealing with curiosity anymore. This is bigger than us." I felt the weight of my transformation in a new way, not just the thrill of confidence, but the responsibility and risk that came with being fully seen. Every choice, every action, now carried consequences I had never anticipated. The life I had embraced, the identity I had fought to express, was suddenly fragile. The car door opened, and a hand extended toward me. It wasn't Emma's. I hesitated, but a voice spoke from inside the car, smooth and commanding. "You've been noticed. It's time to decide. Fight, run, or surrender." My heart raced. The world I had carefully navigated, the delicate balance of fear, secrecy, and empowerment, was crumbling. One wrong move, one slip, and everything would be exposed. The city around us seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of the unknown pressing down. Emma looked at me, her expression a mixture of determination and worry. "Whatever happens, we face it together," she said. Her hand squeezed mine again, a lifeline in the storm. I swallowed hard, glancing at the figure waiting in the car. The choice lay before me: risk everything for freedom, conceal my truth and retreat, or surrender to forces beyond my control. My heels clicked as I stepped forward, the sound loud in the tense silence. And then the screen of a nearby building lit up, flashing a single word: exposed. I froze, my pulse pounding in my ears. Emma's eyes widened, and even the figure in the car tensed. The world held its breath. Every secret, every transformation, every daring step I had taken was now under threat. Would I survive this new challenge? Could I maintain control, or was my life as I knew it about to unravel completely? The answer was unknown, and that's where it ended.